She found a flaw in the Millionaire's one Alamaro diamond, never knowing she'd fix his heart. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let us return to our main character. There are moments in life when you realize you've been nothing more than a shadow, unseen, unheard, unbelievable. That had always been Elise Hart's place in the world. The girl who polished jewels worth more than she would earn in a decade. The girl who entered through back doors and left before anyone even learned her name. The girl who knew how to make herself small because life had taught her that being noticed was dangerous. But this morning was different. This morning in the VIP room of Valora Jewel Spa, surrounded by men wearing Italian suits and women dripping in status symbols, Elise touched something she shouldn't have touched, something that breathed wrong. The $1 million diamond that belonged to Dante Vale. Her fingertip brushed the stone and she heard it, a faint, brittle rasp. A sound no real diamond should ever make. A sound her father had spent years teaching her to recognize. The sound of a lie. The sound that had gotten him killed. Elise lifted her head, breath caught in her throat. She needed to tell someone. But the instant she opened her mouth, the room's polished world shattered around her. Elise Hart stood frozen beside the velvet-lined polishing table, her gloved fingertips hovering above the $1 million stone. Sunlight streamed through the massive window, scattering across the diamond in refracted rainbows that should have been breathtaking. Except what Elise heard wasn't beauty. It was wrongness, sharp, unnatural, a friction that vibrated the way a synthetic stone whispered against metal. She tried it again, rolling the gem ever so slightly. The rasp came again. Dry, hollow, impossible. Her heart stuttered. Dad, this is your sound, the one you warned me about. Behind her, the room buzzed with the soft murmur of wealthy clients, the click of designer heels, the faint hiss of espresso machines. But all Elise could hear was that rasp. Her father's voice rose in her memories. Diamonds don't lie, Elise, but the people who sell them do. She swallowed hard. If what she heard was real, then this diamond, the centerpiece of tonight's International Vale Diamonds showcase, had been switched. Elise, are you done with the Vale piece yet? Her supervisor asked from across the room, not bothering to look up. 1 second, she murmured, trying to keep her hands steady. It wasn't enough. The voice she dreaded most cut through the room like a blade. What exactly are you doing? Vivienne Armand, creative director of Vale Diamonds, stood 3 feet away, immaculate in a black suit tailored like armor. Her red lipstick gleamed like a warning. Elise straightened immediately. I was just finishing the polish. That diamond, Vivienne snapped, is valued at $1 million. It is not here for you to experiment with. Put it down. Elise placed it back on the velvet pad with trembling precision. I'm sorry. I didn't mean, no. No, Vivienne said, lowering her voice to a venomous whisper. You never mean anything. That's the problem. Heat flushed Elise's cheeks, but before she could speak, a ripple of attention swept the room. Everyone turned. Dante Vale had entered. Tall, composed, and cold as sculpted marble, he walked with the silent authority of someone used to the world parting for him. His charcoal suit fit like a second skin, his jaw sharp, his expression unreadable. He barely spared Vivienne a nod before his eyes flicked briefly toward Elise. Just 3 seconds, but it was enough for her to feel seen for the first time all day. What's the delay? Dante asked. Vivienne's smile snapped into place. Nothing at all. Just making sure the staff handles your centerpiece with care. Elise dropped her gaze. Dante didn't know what she'd heard, didn't know that his $1 million diamond was anything but perfect. He certainly didn't know she was shaking. He passed her, headed toward the secured display case. Elise caught the faint scent of cedar and citrus as he moved by, his focus locked on his phone, as if nothing in the room could possibly surprise him. Until tonight, she thought, if she told the truth. But telling the truth had killed her father. Elise, her supervisor called again. We need you in suite 14. Now. She tore her eyes from the diamond and hurried out, pushing her trolley toward the hallway. Her pulse still hammered in her ears, drowning out the noise of clients and perfume and clinking champagne flutes. As she reached the service elevator, her phone buzzed. Unknown number, don't listen to stones that aren't yours. And don't make the mistake your father made. Stop now. Elise's blood turned to ice. Someone knew what she'd heard. Someone knew about her father. Someone was watching her. And whatever she had just stepped into, it was no longer about a flawed diamond. It was about a secret someone was willing to kill for. Elise barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, the rasp of the diamond echoed in her ears, was dry, unnatural, accusing. By the time the sun rose, she had convinced herself she would keep her head down, avoid trouble, and forget the message from the unknown number. But trouble found her anyway. At 8:02 a.m., as she was wiping down a tray of emerald rings, a security guard approached her polishing station. "Ms. Hart, Mr. Vale wants to see you." Now, her breath hitched. He didn't answer simply, turned and led her through a maze of corridors she had only ever entered to empty trash bins. She followed him into a private elevator that scanned his badge and whisked them upward, far above the staff floors toward the elite tower suites reserved for executives and VIP clients. When the doors slid open at the 57th floor, an icy wave rolled down her spine. Dante Vale was waiting for her. "Ms. Hart," he said, his voice calm but sharp. "Come with me." He walked ahead without waiting to see if she followed. Elise trailed a few steps behind, heart pounding as she entered a room she had only ever seen on the Vale Diamonds website, the private gem assessment chamber. It was all glass walls, stainless steel counters, and silence thick enough to suffocate. 5 diamonds sat on a velvet strip, each labeled with a number. Dante turned to face her. "You heard something yesterday." It wasn't a question. Elise swallowed. I shouldn't have said anything. I didn't mean to cause trouble." "I'm not concerned about trouble." Dante gestured toward the diamonds. "I want the truth." Her pulse quickened. "Why me?" His gaze held hers. "Because you reacted before you thought. That kind of instinct is rare. Rare." No one had ever called her rare. He lifted a black silk blindfold. "I want you to identify these stones. No labels, no brands, just what you hear." Elise felt her throat close. "Sir, I don't know if you can," he interrupted softly. "Just listen." The guard stepped out and shut the door behind him. Dante moved closer, close enough that Elise could feel the heat of him, close enough that for a moment she forgot why she was here. He tied the blindfold around her head and darkness washed over her. Her other senses sharpened instantly: the cool metal of the chair, the faint shift of Dante's breath, the scent of cedar lingering around him. A soft clink touched her fingertips. "Stone number 1, he said. Elise exhaled and let her father's voice guide her. She rolled the stone gently. Real crystal lattice vibrated with a soft, muted hum, almost like a heartbeat. "Natural diamond," she whispered. "Medium clarity, no enhancements." Dante said nothing. A second stone touched her hand. This one was lighter, too light. The friction was wrong. The atoms didn't sing, they scraped. "CVD synthetic," she said. "Surface treated with silicone to imitate brilliance." She felt Dante shift, the air tightening. The third, fourth, fifth stones followed. Elise named each one, perfectly identifying nitrogen levels, fracture lines, even the micro-etching pattern. Her voice grew steadier with each answer. When Dante finally removed the blindfold, he was staring at her the way someone stares at a miracle they don't yet understand. 545, he murmured, including details not listed on any lab sheet. Elise blinked, overwhelmed. I don't know how I did that." "You do," Dante said. "You learned it." Her throat tightened. "My dad taught me." His expression softened just slightly. "Then he taught you well." Before Elise could speak, the glass door slid open. Vivian entered like a storm contained in designer heels. "What is this?" she demanded, eyes darting from Elise to Dante. "Why is she here?" Dante didn't flinch. "She's helping us." Vivian's smile sliced like a blade. "Helping? She is a polishing girl. You're letting her handle proprietary stones." "She passed the blind test flawlessly," Dante replied. "Tests can be staged," Vivian said coolly. "Or manipulated." Her eyes cut to Elise. "You're playing with fire, little mouse." Elise stepped back automatically. Vivian's presence always felt like standing too close to a cliff's edge, but Dante stepped forward, placing himself between them. "That's enough, Vivian." The temperature in the room dropped. Vivian's smile didn't falter. "Just remember who the real threats are." She left with a flick of her hair heels clicking like gunshots. Dante turned back to Elise. "Ignore her. Your instincts are valuable." Her breath shook. "Sir, I didn't ask for any of this. Truth rarely asks permission." He walked to his desk, typed something, and said, "I'm granting you temporary access to the internal stone archive. Quietly review anything you need." Elise blinked. "Me access to the vault system?" He met her gaze. "You're the only one I trust right now." Her heart tightened painfully. No one had ever said those words to her. She left the chamber in a daze, badge trembling in her hand, but that feeling didn't last. Hours later, when she returned to log in, her screen flashed red. "Access denied, account locked, unauthorized. User reported." Elise's stomach dropped. Her phone buzzed immediately with a new message. "I warned you not to listen." Elise returned to the gem assessment chamber the next morning, with the simple intention of retrieving the microfiber gloves she'd left behind. She expected the room to be empty, silent, undisturbed. But when she stepped inside, her breath caught. 6 diamonds sat in a perfect line on the counter, except they weren't placed the way the lab technicians normally arranged them. These were angled slightly, almost deliberately, as though someone wanted to be sure they caught her eye. A challenge, a warning, or both. Elise approached slowly. Her fingertips hovered above the first stone. She shouldn't touch them again. She knew that, but her instincts had never been quiet things. The moment her glove brushed the first diamond, she heard it. That same brittle synthetic rasp. Her pulse quickened. She moved to the second stone, another rasp, faint but identical. Then the third, the fourth. All 6 stones whispered the same lie. Someone in Vale Diamonds was switching stones systematically, methodically, shamelessly. And someone wanted her to find out. Her hands trembled as she logged into the lab computer. The archive still remembered her temporary access from yesterday, not yet updated to reflect her revoked clearance. She clicked open the cutting database and aligned the 6 stones with the official Vale records. The moment she zoomed in, her skin went cold. Every one of the flawed stones shared a cutting pattern, an unmistakable micro-edge that appeared only in cases tied to a specific tragedy, a tragedy Dante Vale never spoke about. Elise's breath caught. No, this can't be right. Can't what be right? The voice came from the doorway. Dante stood there, expression unreadable. Shadows clung to him the same way exhaustion did, and for the first time Elise saw something fragile beneath his polished exterior. She turned the monitor toward him. "These stones, their cuts match a file I saw once. A police archive from 3 years ago." Dante's jaw tightened. His eyes darkened. Every line of his body went rigid. "My fiancée," he said quietly. "She died because of a compromised stone. One cut like those." Elise's heart stung. "I didn't know. I'm so sorry." He closed his eyes briefly, as if the memory physically hurt. She'd been investigating a flaw no one else believed existed. She told me she heard something wrong in a diamond. I didn't listen. His voice cracked. And then she was gone. Elise wanted to reach out to lay a hand on his arm, but something told her Dante was barely holding himself together. So she stayed closely near enough that he felt her presence, not so near that it overwhelmed him. "Dante," she whispered, "someone wanted me to find these." Before he could answer, the sound of heels cut sharply through the room. Vivian entered with a smile polished enough to be dangerous. "Well," she said smoothly, "isn't this cozy?" Dante straightened immediately, expression snapping back to steel. Vivian's gaze swept over Elise with quiet venom. "You really don't know when to stop, do you?" Elise lifted her chin. "These stones, someone tampered with them. That's not my fault." Vivian leaned in, her perfume thick and suffocating. "Let me give you some advice. Dead files should stay dead, and if you keep digging into other people's graves," her smile sharpened, "you'll end up joining them." Elise felt something cold crawl up her spine, but Dante stepped between them. "Enough, Vivian." Vivian tilted her head, studying him. "I only hope you know what you're doing." Trusting her. Her gaze slid back to Elise. People die for less. She left without waiting for a response. Dante exhaled, rubbing the bridge of his nose. I don't know who's doing this, but you're right, someone's trying to send us both a message. Elise swallowed hard. Dante, look at this. She reopened the magnified cut pattern. At the very center of the micro-edge flaw was a detail so faint it could have been dust, but Elise had seen it before. A slanted pressure carving, a subtle depth tilt, a rhythmic alignment her father used to teach her how to recognize by touch. My dad made this, she whispered. This exact signature cut, but this isn't his work. Someone copied him, almost perfectly. Dante stared at her. Are you sure? Elise nodded. He taught me this when I was 12. I'd know it anywhere. Before either of them could speak, her gaze caught something tucked behind the tool cabinet. A thin metal envelope, dusty and overlooked. She pulled it free. A handwritten label stopped her heart. To Elise. If something happens to me. Her fingers shook as she opened it. Inside was a small black USB drive. She plugged it into the lab computer. The screen blinked. A file opened. Vale's signature cut. Prototype blueprint, creator Edward Hart, cosign R. Vale, Elise's knees nearly gave out. Her father, and Robert Vale, Dante's father. A secret project, a shared signature cut, a pattern both men died for. Elise, Dante said softly. What is that? She looked at him with a trembling breath. It's the proof my father left behind, she whispered. And whatever killed him, killed your fiancé, and maybe your father too. Dante's eyes widened, and for the first time they were no longer two strangers tangled in the same storm. They were connected, by grief, by truth, by the danger closing in around them, and by a secret someone had killed to protect. Elise didn't remember leaving the lab, only the sensation of cold air hitting her face as she stepped into the stairwell. Her pulse thundered in her ears. The USB in her pocket felt heavier than stone, too dangerous, too real. Slow down. Dante's voice echoed behind her as he caught up, grabbing the railing to stop her from stumbling on the landing. I'm fine, she lied. No, he said, lowering his voice. You're shaking. She didn't deny it. The signature cut, her father's name beside Robert Vale's, the same flaw used in stones tied to a death. Someone at Vale was copying the blueprint. Someone skilled, someone with access, someone who knew how to hide their tracks, and someone wanted Elise to stop. We need to see Vivian's office, she whispered, glancing down the hallway. If anyone here has access to the original cut archives, it's her. Dante's jaw tightened. She's dangerous. So is whoever put those stones on the table, Elise countered. For a moment, Dante studied her measuring, weighing her fear against her resolve. Then he nodded. Stay close, he said. They moved through the back corridors of Vale Tower, navigating employee-only hallways Elise normally used to avoid being seen. The polished exterior of the building disappeared here, replaced by flickering lights and echoing vents. It was the perfect place to hide secrets. When they reached Vivian's office, Dante typed in his override access code. The lock clicked. Elise held her breath as he pushed the door open. The room was immaculate, too immaculate. Every pen aligned, every folder stacked with geometric precision. This wasn't an office. It was a staged photograph. Check the drawers, Dante said quietly, heading to the locked cabinet on the right. Elise moved to Vivian's desk and pulled open the first drawer. Lipstick, a wallet, a velvet pouch containing a fountain pen. The second drawer held sketchbooks and color palettes. But the third drawer, her breath caught. Inside lay a single velvet box. Elise opened it. A diamond. Not in a ring, not in a necklace, loose raw brilliance, but altered. A tiny laser mark glimmered on its girdle. Elise, Dante called from behind her. You need to see this. She carried the stone to him. He had pulled out a binder labeled Vault Clearance Certificates, but every page inside was blank. Brand new, unused. Vivian wasn't keeping records. She was destroying them. Dante lifted the diamond from Elise's palm and scanned the laser mark with his phone. The monitor flashed a series of numbers. Encrypted, Dante said. Let me try something, Elise murmured. She held the stone to the light, angling it to highlight the microscopic etching. Then she took Dante's phone and manually entered the numbers in a different order, one her father once used when teaching her about signature codes. The screen blinked. A single line of decoded text appeared: cut pattern authorization, EH. Override required. Elise's heart lurched. EH Edward Hart, her father. But the signature had been modified. Someone else had used his pattern and layered a second approval code over it. Look, Elise whispered. This isn't my dad's final signature. Someone recopied it. Someone traced my father's technique but didn't execute it fully. Meaning, Dante asked. Meaning the hand that cut this wasn't his, Elise said. It was someone copying him. Someone good. But not him. The lights flickered. Dante stiffened. Did you do that? No. They exchanged a look. Then the security cameras in the room froze. Every feed on the wall screens froze at the same second. 6:14:22. Camera outage, Dante said. That never happens here. It happened yesterday, Elise whispered. Remember the clip that glitched right when I tested the stone? A chill ran through her. Someone was watching them. Dante moved to the computer on Vivian's desk and pulled up the system logs. A flashing warning appeared instantly. File error, external access detected. It's remote, Dante growled. Someone's overriding the cameras and tracking the rooms we're in. Elise stepped back instinctively, her pulse spiking. Before Dante could type another command, the office door handle shifted. Someone was outside. Elise, Dante whispered urgently, closet. Now. She slipped into the storage closet, heart hammering, as Dante closed the door just enough to leave a crack. Vivian stepped inside the office. Her heels clicked once, twice, and stopped. Looking through my things, Dante, she said, voice deceptively calm. Dante didn't answer. How noble, Vivian continued. Protecting your little gem polisher, though she won't look so brave once she realizes she has no idea what she stepped into. Elise held her breath. Vivian's eyes drifted to the open drawer where Elise had found the diamond. You really shouldn't go poking where you don't belong, she murmured. It got someone killed before. Elise felt her stomach drop. Vivian wasn't threatening. She was remembering. Tell me, Dante demanded, how long have you been switching stones? Vivian laughed softly. Do you think I would dirty my hands like that? I'm not your enemy, Dante. I'm just someone who's learned how to survive. And what about Elise? Dante challenged. Vivian stepped closer to him. She won't survive unless she stops right now. A beat of silence. Vivian leaned in, lowering her voice to a chilling whisper. Tell her this grave diggers rarely get to choose which grave they fall into. Then her heels clicked away. The door opened. Close. Dante exhaled. She's gone. Elise emerged shaken but determined. She knows too much, Elise whispered. If she's not the one doing this, then she's being forced, or she's covering for someone powerful. That's what scares me, Dante said. Before he could say more, Elise's phone buzzed. A message. Anonymous. Short, terrifying. Stop digging. Your father didn't listen either. Elise's vision blurred for a moment. Someone knew her father. Someone knew what he'd discovered. Someone had killed him. And now they were coming for her. Dante took her trembling hand steady and warm. Elise, he said, you're not alone in this anymore. She looked into his eyes, dark, conflicted, determined. Neither of them knew what waited next, but one thing was certain. They had just pulled the first thread, and the whole masterpiece was about to unravel. Elise stood under the blinding lights of the Vale auditorium, palms sweating, throat dry, wishing she could disappear into the floor. Hundreds of eyes stared down at her, from the rising tiers of seats waiting hungry for her to fail. Vivian had planned this moment with the precision of a jeweler setting a trap instead of a gem. Ladies and gentlemen, Vivian announced, voice ringing with polished authority. Today we will conduct an internal verification demonstration. Ms. Elise Hart has made certain claims serious enough that Vale believes she deserves a fair chance to prove herself. Fair. The word twisted like a knife. 10 diamonds sat on the long table, each in its own velvet cradle. Elise recognized none of them. The top executives of Vale watched from the front row. Technicians, journalists, and members of the board packed the rest of the room. Behind the stage, Dante stood with his arms crossed, expression tight, eyes locked on her as if willing her to breathe. Vivian smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. "Let's begin," she said. Elise tried to steady her heartbeat as the first stone was rolled toward her. This one felt natural, her father's teachings rising like muscle memory. She touched the girdle lightly, listening to the resonance, warm, soft breathing. "Natural diamond," she said, "no treatments." A few people scribbled notes, no one reacted. Second stone, third stone, fourth. She identified them one by one with clarity she didn't know she still possessed. No hesitation, no doubt. Then the fifth stone touched her palm, and the world lurched. It felt real at first, a little too cold, but that wasn't surprising in this atmosphere. The weight was right, the reflection angle matched natural structure, but the sound was wrong. A faint delayed scratch, something masked, like a synthetic stone sprayed with a nitrogen coating to mimic natural friction. Elise frowned, lifted it closer. "Is something the matter?" Vivian asked sweetly. Elise inhaled. "This one doesn't sound right. I believe it's synthetic." Gasps fluttered through the room. Vivian raised a brow. "Synthetic? Are you certain?" "Yes," Elise said firmly. "There's a thin nitrogen layer to mimic." Before she could finish, Vivian gestured sharply. The technician at the side panel activated the high-grade diamond analyzer. A burst of green light bathed the stone as the screen behind Elise displayed the reading. Natural, 100% authentic. The auditorium erupted into laughter, whispers, disdain. Elise froze. "No," she whispered. "That can't be right. The analyzer, something's off." Vivian's voice cut sharp as glass. "The machine is Vale certified and calibrated this morning. But you," she swept Elise up and down, "are a girl with a polishing cloth and an overactive imagination." Heat surged into Elise's face. The humiliation burned through her skin. Dante stepped forward. "Vivian." She raised her hand sharply. "No, Dante." She accused our showcase stone of being fake. She accused the heritage stones of being tampered with. And now, under official verification, she fails. Miserably, the board members murmured. Some shook their heads. "Let's continue," Vivian said. Stone 6, stone 7. Elise's composure slipped with each one. Her instinct told her she was right. Her father's voice told her she was right. But the analyzer's green light flashed authentic over and over, mocking her. When she declared stone 9 treated, the analyzer screamed untreated across the screen. Someone snorted, "What a joke!" Another whispered, "This is embarrassing." Dante took half a step onto the stage, jaw clenched, but Vivian blocked him. "Ms. Hart," Vivian announced, voice smooth as poison, "you are hereby dismissed from all involvement with Vale Diamonds, effective immediately. Please collect your belongings." Elise's hands shook as she removed her gloves. Vivian leaned in, only loud enough for Elise to hear. "Your talent died with your father. Stop pretending otherwise." The words hit harder than any public humiliation. Elise walked off the stage, vision blurring. The room tilted around her. Every whisper stabbed deeper. Liar, pretender, fraud. She pushed through the exit doors and stumbled into the hallway, chest tightening. Dante caught up with her. "Elise, wait." "It's fine," she said, voice cracking. "I knew this would happen." "No," he said fiercely. "Something wasn't right with that machine." Elise shook her head. "Everyone saw it." "I failed. Just let it go. Please." Dante looked at her as if letting go was impossible. "Elise, I believe you." Her breath hitched. Only one other person had ever said those words, her father. She couldn't bear to hear them now. She walked away before Dante could say anything else. Outside, the Miami sun hit her like a wall. She sat on the curb, numb. She didn't know how long she stayed there until the sound of hurried footsteps stopped beside her. "Elise." Caleb, Dante's IT specialist, looked pale, panicked. "I traced the analyzer logs." She lifted her eyes. "Why, because what happened in there wasn't your fault." Caleb knelt, lowering his voice. "Stone number 5, the one they said you got wrong. It was tampered with. Someone added a nitrogen mist to create a false acoustic profile." Elise stared. Cold dread slid down her spine. "Like, what happened to my dad?" Caleb nodded slowly. "Exactly like what happened to your dad." She covered her mouth, breath shaking. "They set you up," Caleb whispered. Vivian or someone above her. They needed you discredited before you dug any deeper. Her vision tunneled. Her father's death, Dante's fiancée's death, stones being switched, laser signatures copied, threats from nowhere. Someone inside Vale Diamonds was orchestrating everything, and now they wanted Elise gone. Caleb placed something in her hand, a small folded note. I found this in the analyzer's error logs. I think it was meant for you. Elise unfolded it. One sentence written in crisp, familiar handwriting. They killed him for listening. Don't be next. Elise didn't go home. She wandered the outskirts of Miami until the sun dipped low and the sky bruised purple, replaying the humiliation in her mind over and over. Every laugh, every whisper, every moment when the analyzer declared her wrong. Her father had warned her, truth sounds different, Ellie. But most people would rather hear a beautiful lie. By the time she reached her apartment door, her hands were trembling. She fumbled with the keys, stepped inside, and froze. A small black object sat in the middle of her table. The USB she had found in the Vale archives. She didn't remember putting it there. Her breath caught. Elise. She spun around. Caleb stood in the doorway, breathing hard, eyes wide behind his glasses. I'm sorry, he said quickly. I didn't mean to scare you. I knocked. You didn't answer. What are you doing here? She asked, voice shaking. Caleb shut the door behind him, lowering his voice. We have a problem, a big one. He reached into his backpack and pulled out a laptop. The screen lit up with a folder titled Hart Files Private. Elise's knees weakened. Where did you get this? From your father, Caleb said softly. Or what he left behind. He clicked play. A video appeared. Her father sat at his workbench, face tired, eyes shadowed with fear she had never seen before. Elise, he said, if you're seeing this, then I didn't make it out. Her chest tightened painfully. I've uncovered something inside Vale Diamonds, he continued, a signature cut being used to produce counterfeit high-grade stones. Someone is using my techniques, my blueprint to switch diamonds at the source. I think Robert Vale found out too. Elise covered her trembling mouth. Her father looked directly into the camera. Don't trust anyone, not even him. The video glitched, fizzled, then went black. The room tilted. Elise slumped into the chair. He knew this before he died. Caleb nodded. There's more. Look at this. He opened a second file. It was a recording static at first, then her father's voice hurried and whispering. They forced us to cut. They said it was for the good of Vale. But it's for someone else, someone powerful. If anything happens to me, don't let Elise near them. The audio cut off sharply, with a crash. Elise shut her eyes, chest heaving. Caleb's voice softened. Elise, there's something you don't know. She blinked. What, my sister? The one who died 3 years ago investigating Vale. She was Dante's fiancée. Elise's breath caught. I didn't know. Caleb looked down. She heard the same flaw you did. She followed the same pattern, and someone at Vale made sure she didn't survive long enough to expose it. The realization hit Elise like cold water. Her father, Caleb's sister, the 6 stones, the laser mark, the blueprint, all pieces of the same secret. Caleb, she whispered, I think whoever killed your sister killed my father too. Caleb's jaw clenched. That's why I'm helping you. Before Elise could respond, a sharp knock rattled her door. Her heart leapt into her throat. Caleb moved instantly, shutting the laptop and grabbing her arm. Who else knows where you live? No one, she whispered. The knocking came again, firmer this time. Elise Dante's voice. Caleb exhaled but didn't relax. Elise hurried to open the door. Dante stood there, rain-drenched jacket, half unbuttoned, breathing hard. You weren't answering your phone, he said. I thought something happened. Something in Elise's chest loosened. I'm okay. Dante stepped inside, noticing Caleb immediately. His gaze hardened. What is he doing here? Caleb stepped forward, helping her. Something you should have done sooner. Enough, Elise whispered. Both of you, please. The tension crackled until she pulled out the USB. Dante, she said softly. There's something you need to see. They gathered around the laptop as she replayed her father's message. Dante went still, rigid. When the video ended, he spoke in a hoarse whisper. Elise had never heard from him. My father. He was working with your father. Elise nodded, and they both discovered something they weren't supposed to. Dante sank into a chair, fingers digging into his hair. All this time, I thought my father died on that yacht because of a storm, but if Aurum Group was involved. Elise touched the edge of the table to steady herself. Your father didn't die in an accident. None of this was an accident. Silence blanketed the room. Then Caleb broke it. I traced the encrypted clearance logs from Vivian's office. Someone used her credentials to authorize counterfeit shipments. Someone above her. Who? Dante demanded. Caleb swallowed. Aurum Group. They've been laundering fake stones through Vale for years. Your father was trying to stop them. Elise's father, too. That means, Elise whispered. That means they were murdered. Caleb finished. The room seemed to tilt. Dante stood abruptly. We need proof. Real proof. Not just logs and half-finished files. Caleb nodded. Then we start from the beginning. We dig into Aurum's shell companies. And into Vale's past, Elise said quietly. Into whatever our fathers died for. Dante met her gaze. For the first time, his eyes weren't cold. They were full of grief and something fiercer. You're not doing this alone, he said. Before Elise could speak, her phone buzzed against the table. Another unknown message. You're repeating your father's mistakes. You won't get another chance. Elise's hands shook, but her voice didn't. Let them warn me, she whispered. I'm not afraid anymore. Dante stepped closer, blocking out the world. You should be, he said softly, but I'll be right here. Caleb closed his laptop with a grim nod. Then it starts now, the three of us. Elise drew a shaky breath. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. True hands find truth, Ellie, even when truth is buried. She lifted her chin. Then let's go find it. Dawn broke in streaks of gold over the Miami skyline as Elise hurried down the steps of her apartment building, a knot of dread tightening in her stomach. Today was the Vale Diamonds International Auction, a dazzling spectacle broadcast to millions around the world. And sometime before sunrise, Dante Vale had shown up at her door, rain-soaked and exhausted with only 5 words. I need your help today. He didn't elaborate in the hallway. He just looked at her with urgent, haunted eyes and said, The auction stone isn't right. So now she followed him into the sleek black car waiting by the curb, her pulse drumming in her ears. Inside, Dante handed her a small velvet case. Listen to it, he said. Elise opened the case and hesitated for a fraction of a second before lifting the diamond to her ear. The sound hit instantly wrong, hollow, thin, synthetic. It's fake, she whispered. Dante nodded grimly. The world thinks we're auctioning $1 million flawless Vale signature diamond today. If we put that on stage, he exhaled. Vale Diamonds collapses on live stream. Elise's chest tightened. Someone switched it. Someone inside, Dante said. Someone who wants Vale destroyed. She didn't need to say the name. They both knew who. Vivian. The Miami oceanfront Grand Hall shimmered under chandeliers shaped like cascading ice. Billionaires, collectors, celebrities, they filled the room in glittering waves. Flashing cameras caught every angle, every diamond, every flaw. Dante walked beside Elise with stiff, controlled purpose. Whispers followed them as they crossed through security. Isn't that the girl who failed the test? Why is she with Dante Vale's scandal? Elise kept her chin high. She was done hiding. Vivian waited on stage wearing a silver gown that sparkled like weaponized starlight. Her smile faltered when she saw Elise. The champagne flute in her hand tilted just slightly. You brought her, Vivian asked Dante through clenched teeth. She's verifying the stone, Dante replied. Vivian's smile hardened, bold, considering her last performance. Dante didn't break his glare. Move. Vivian stepped aside, but her eyes burned holes into Elise's back. The auction stone rested in a private prep room behind the stage. Elise approached the black velvet display, her heartbeat thrumming. She touched it, listened, flinched. It's wrong, she whispered. It's the same flaw pattern we saw in the vault, same nitrogen masking. Dante swore under his breath. Then someone switched it again. Elise's gaze fell on a drawer slightly ajar beneath the display table. A faint glint caught her eye. "Dante, open that." Inside was a small, vintage-looking key labeled RV Archives Safe. Elise's breath hitched. RV Robert Vale. Your father. Dante looked like the ground shifted beneath him. That safe hasn't been opened in 7 years. The archive storage room was small, dust-dimmed and forgotten, lit only by one flickering bulb. The safe sat in the corner, heavy and old, bearing a scratched Vale logo no longer used. Elise inserted the key. The lock clicked. Inside lay a worn leather notebook, 6 loose diamonds each with the exact flawed acoustic signature, blueprint fragments, and a single photo of Edward Hart and Robert Vale standing side by side in the cutting lab. Dante lifted the notebook, voice breaking. "This is my father's handwriting." Elise laid a trembling hand over the stones. "This proves he knew," and tried to protect the company. Dante finished, but the moment felt fragile, too fragile, because Elise sensed movement behind them. Vivian stood at the doorway, expression unreadable. "You shouldn't have found that," she whispered. "You planned this," Dante said, stepping in front of Elise. "You switched the stones." Vivian laughed, but it cracked a fractured, desperate sound. "You think this is my plan?" she hissed. "Dante, I've been trying to keep the company alive. Someone else switched those stones. Someone else has been controlling everything from above us." "Who?" Elise demanded. Vivian's red lips trembled. "The same people who killed your father. The same people who killed his fiancée. The same people who made sure Robert Vale vanished." Elise's blood iced. "Aurum Group," Vivian whispered. She glanced behind them, panic flashing. "You need to leave, now. This is bigger than any of us." That safe was a signal, a warning. Before they could question her security, radios crackled to life. All units to backstage, unauthorized personnel detected. Vivian looked between Elise and Dante, eyes shining with something Elise never expected to see: fear. "Go," Vivian whispered. "Run." But it was too late. The moment Elise and Dante stepped back onto the auction floor, Vivian took the stage and locked eyes with Elise, an unspoken message. A setup. "Elise Hart," Vivian announced, "has insisted the auction diamond be verified publicly before we begin." Gasps rippled across the hall. Cameras zoomed in. Dante swore. Elise froze. Vivian smiled sweetly, too sweetly. "Come, Elise," she purred. "Show the world your impeccable ear." Dante tried to move toward her, but security blocked him. Vivian had trapped Elise. Under blinding lights, Elise lifted the stone to the microphone. The room fell silent. She let it roll across her fingertips. The rasping synthetic click echoed through the speakers, broadcast to millions. Gasps turned to shouts. Vivian went pale. Dante broke past security as Elise placed the diamond down, hands steady, voice steady. "This stone is fake," she said, looking straight into the nearest camera. "Vale Diamonds has been infiltrated, and whoever did it wants us all blind." Chaos exploded, but Elise didn't move, because at the back of the room a man stood perfectly still in the shadows, a man with the same face she had seen in pictures, a face Dante had told her died 7 years ago. Robert Vale. He raised one finger to his lips, shh, then slipped through the exit. Elise's pulse stopped. "Dante," she choked, grabbing his sleeve. "I just saw your father." Dante turned just in time to see nothing but an empty doorway, and a message waiting on Elise's phone, midnight. "Pier 12. Come alone." Her hands trembled. This wasn't just conspiracy anymore. It was resurrection. Elise reached Pier 12 at exactly midnight, the ocean wind slicing through her jacket and carrying the metallic scent of danger. Miami's lights shimmered across the water like broken glass. She shouldn't be here. She knew that. Every instinct screamed to run, but the thought of her father, the truth he died for, held her in place. A shadow detached itself from the far end of the pier. The man stepped into the dim glow of a flickering lamp. "Elise Hart," he said. His voice was quiet, steady. "You look so much like your father." Her breath stopped. He wore a gray coat collar, turned up hands and pockets, but it was his face that froze her in place. "Robert Vale." or the man wearing his face. You're supposed to be dead, Elise whispered. The man gave a hollow smile. The dead are very useful. They don't ask questions. He moved closer, boots thudding softly on the wooden planks. You're getting too close. Aurum Group has been watching you since the showcase. You should walk away. No, she said, stepping back only to keep him out of her reach. Tell me the truth. Did Aurum kill my father? The man's jaw tightened. Aurum kills anyone who knows how to hear diamonds. Her blood ran cold. My father was targeted. And so will you be, he said, if you stay with Dante. Vale, you won't survive. Elise's voice trembled. Why are you warning me? The man looked past her eyes, scanning the shadowed coastline. Because someone once tried to warn me. I didn't listen. Before she could respond, footsteps pounded across the pier. Elise Dante sprinted toward her, breath-sharp rain clinging to his hair. His gaze landed on the man, and he stopped dead. Dad. The man didn't turn. You shouldn't be here, Dante. Dante took one step forward, emotion cracking through his voice. Look at me. The man finally faced him. Dante's breath shattered. It's you. But the man only shook his head. I'm not who you think I am. He stepped backward toward the shadows as Elise reached for Dante's arm to steady him. Then another voice cut the air. Don't trust him. Vivian emerged from behind a stack of old crates. Her eyes were swollen, mascara-streaked hands trembling so violently her phone slipped and clattered onto the pier. Dante, Elise, she said shakily. You need to leave. Now. Her fear was raw, not performed. Dante stared. Vivian. She nodded frantically. Aurum sent him here. He isn't Robert Vaz. He's one of their operatives, a mimic. They did surgery reconstruction. They needed someone with Robert's face to control the board at Vale. Elise's stomach twisted. Then where's the real Robert Vale? Vivian's lips quivered. Alive, hidden, forced to work for them. The man, no, the mimic, clicked his tongue softly. Vivian, always the weak one. You were supposed to keep your distance, Vivian snapped. They're watching us. Do you understand, watching everything? Dante took a step forward. Where is my father? The mimic's expression didn't change. He's where Aurum keeps anyone who won't cooperate. And why should we believe you, Elise demanded. He looked at her sharply. Because if you don't, your blood will be the next message they send. Suddenly a crack sounded, metal hitting metal. The pier lights flickered violently. Vivian's panic surged. They found us. You two need to go now. The mimic shoved his hands into his pockets. Time's up. He turned and slipped into the darkness behind the crates, disappearing between the pillars like a ghost. Dante lunged after him, but Elise grabbed his wrist. He's leading us into a trap. Dante stopped, chest heaving, torn between rage and grief. Vivian stepped forward, grabbing Elise's arm. Listen to me. Everything you think you know is wrong. Aurum didn't just infiltrate Vale. They own pieces of it. Pieces your father and hers tried to cut out. Elise's breath caught. My father worked with Robert Vale. We found the USB. Vivian nodded miserably. Of course you did. They left it as bait. They wanted to know if you had the same talent as your father, if you could hear diamonds. Elise's hand went numb. Why? Because you're a threat, Vivian whispered. The biggest one they've had in years. Before Elise could react, metal clanged behind them. The pier door slammed shut. Someone was coming. Vivian's face drained of color. Go, run, I'll slow them down. Dante grabbed her wrist. Vivian. She ripped free. I'm not the villain you think I am. They threatened my mother, Dante. My family. I did what I had to do. She shoved him and Elise toward the emergency ladder. Go, Elise hesitated only a second before she and Dante climbed down to the maintenance dock beneath the pier. Just as they reached the bottom, a muffled scream echoed above them. The sound cut off too quickly. Dante grabbed Elise's hand. We need to move. They slipped through the maze of abandoned storage crates and broken fishing gear, running until Elise's lungs burned and the shadows behind them stilled. Only then did they stop near an old maintenance shed. Dante leaned against the wall, trembling. Elise, that man, he looked just like my father. Elise touched his arm gently. Whoever he is, he knows something, and I think he wants us to follow the trail. Dante lifted his head, eyes raw with pain and anger. Then we follow it. Before Elise could speak, her phone buzzed. A new message. No name, just coordinates, and one chilling line. Come at dawn if you want the truth. Elise met Dante's gaze. They both knew there was no turning back now. Every lie, every death, every diamond flaw, it all led here, to the truth waiting in the dark. Elise reached Vale Tower just before dawn, the sky still bruised with blue and violet. The streets were empty, eerily quiet, as if the city itself knew what was coming. The coordinates from the anonymous message pointed her to the executive entrance, a place she had never once been allowed to enter. Dante was already there, leaning against the marble column, a shadow beneath the gold-lit archway. His shirt was wrinkled eyes, hollow hair, disheveled, like he hadn't slept at all. You shouldn't have come alone, he said. I didn't, she replied softly. You're here. For a moment, something warm flickered between them. Then the glass doors hissed open on their own, the lobby lights flaring awake one row at a time. A voice echoed through the speakers. Top floor. Elise and Dante exchanged a nod and stepped inside. The elevator was too quiet, climbing with slow inevitability. Elise clutched the USB in her pocket, feeling the grooves worn by her father's hands. Dante stood beside her, arms rigid, jaw locked. When the doors opened on the 15th floor, the conference room lights flickered on. Someone awaited them. The mimic. The man who wore Robert Vale's face. He stood at the head of the table like a CEO addressing his board. Thank you for coming, he said. I wasn't sure you'd be brave or foolish enough to follow the message. Dante stepped forward, fists clenched. Where is my father? The mimic tilted his head. Alive. For now. Elise's breath hitched. Where? A slow, cold smile. Where Aurum keeps all their assets, the ones that refuse to cooperate. Dante lunged, but Elise caught his arm. The mimic didn't flinch. You can hit me, he said, but that won't bring him back. Before Dante could speak, another voice broke into the room. You're lying. Vivian stumbled inside, bruised hair, wild shirt torn at the shoulder. Her voice trembled, but her eyes were fierce. You don't hold Robert Vale. You hold his double. You hold the one who keeps signing his name. The mimic's expression hardened. Vivian, you were told to stay out of sight. Screw what I was told, she spat. She turned to Elise. You want the truth? Here it is. Aurum has been switching diamonds for years. They pushed your father and Robert Vale to create the perfect counterfeit blueprint, but they couldn't control them, so they removed them. Where is the real Robert? Dante repeated, voice breaking. Vivian swallowed. Not dead, but not free either. The mimic suddenly reached inside his coat. Elise's heart jumped, but instead of a weapon, he pulled out a tablet and pressed a button. A video call popped up. Robert Vale. Real. Alive. Older. Exhausted. His eyes widened when he saw Dante. My son, he whispered. I'm so sorry. Dante staggered back like he'd been hit. Dad, where are you? But the screen flickered, the signal unstable. I don't have long, Robert rasped. Aurum won't let me speak. The screen cut to static. Stop playing with him, Elise shouted, stepping in front of Dante. But the mimic didn't react. He only turned toward her, expression unreadable. If you want the real truth, he said, you'll have to open the file your father died protecting. Elise froze. You have the USB, he asked. She hesitated. Dante's voice trembled. Elise, don't. But she stepped forward anyway. This ends now, she whispered. She plugged the USB into the conference room screen. Lines of encrypted code flashed, then a folder appeared. Vale Aurum ledger cut signatures, shipment overrides, bribe logs, assassination orders, and at the bottom, primary account holder, Vale. Dante stared in horror. No, my father didn't sign this. He didn't, the mimic said softly. I did. Silence suffocated the room. I was crafted to look like him, speak like him, sign like him. Aurum needed a Vale to authorize everything. Your father refused, so they made me. Elise's stomach twisted. Then why show us this now? His eyes softened, almost human. Because I'm tired of being someone else's blade. Before either of them could respond, the conference room door slammed open. A gunshot exploded. Vivian screamed. Elise ducked as the bullet cracked the glass behind her. A masked man rushed an Aurum operative. Dante grabbed Elise, shielding her as the mimic lunged at the attacker. Another shot fired, and another, then silence. The mimic staggered back, one hand pressed to his abdomen. He looked at Dante. "You deserve the truth," he whispered. "Tell Robert Vale. He doesn't owe Aurum anything anymore." He collapsed. The operative fled before security arrived. Vivian sank to her knees, hands over her mouth. Dante stood trembling, staring at the man who had carried his father's face. Elise placed a hand on his back. "It's over," she whispered. He shook his head. "No, it's just beginning." Hours later, Vale Tower swarmed with FBI agents, board members, journalists. Elise and Dante gave statements, turning over every file from the USB. Vivian cooperated fully, her fear finally outweighed by exhaustion. By late afternoon, when the chaos finally quieted, Elise found Dante in the old cutting room, staring at the half-finished diamond his father once worked on. "He's safe now," Elise said gently. "Your father." The FBI confirmed it. "They're extracting him." Dante turned toward her eyes, soft and raw. "You saved us," he whispered. Elise shook her head. "We saved each other." He stepped closer, lifting her hand. "Elise, I want you with me, not just for the company, for everything that comes next." Her heart thudded. "Dante?" But he smiled, quiet, sincere. "We found the truth together," he said. "Let's build something real together, too." Elise squeezed his hand. "Then don't let go." "I won't." He leaned his forehead against hers, the softest promise in the quietest room. Aurum Group wasn't fully destroyed that morning. Not every masked face was caught. Not every name in the ledger was exposed. Some shadows still moved behind walls no one had opened yet, but the truth had taken its first breath. And Elise Hart, girl, who once polished diamonds for a living, became the one to make the world listen. And if you were in Elise's place, who do you think is still hiding in the shadows of Aurum Group? Tell us your theory in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because Elise and Dante's fight for the truth is far from over.